Good evening, PGA members, and welcome to our conversation with the producers of VH1's RuPaul's Drag Race. My name is Diana White. I'm the Manager of Member Services and Events with the PGA. I want to thank you all so much for tuning in live for this special conversation and give a very big thank you to each of our panelists for being here tonight. For everyone watching, please don't forget that you are able to participate in this conversation by submitting your questions through the Q&A feature, which is at the very bottom center of your screen. And the final portion of the Q&A will be reserved for audience questions. Our moderator would appreciate if you could direct your questions to a specific panelist if possible. It is now my pleasure to introduce Miss Michele Visage, who will be our moderator tonight. Michele is an Emmy Award-winning, internationally renowned television personality, radio show host, podcast host, platinum-selling recording artist, and author. She serves as a producer and judge on RuPaul's Drag Race. Thank you so much, Michele, for being here. I will turn it over to you now.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that introduction, and thank you all for joining us. We like to think of ourselves as the powerful women behind the RuPaul's Drag Race franchise because, you know, behind every success is a strong woman. Let's just keep it real. So welcome into this conversation. I will start by introducing everybody, and then we will get chatting. So we have got executive producer Mandy Salangsang. We have executive producer Michele Mills, but we call her Mish around here. So if you hear me calling her Mish, she's Mish, I'm Michele. We have got the executive producer of Untucked 12 and Secret Celebrity Drag Race, Heng. Co-executive producer of Drag Race 13 and All Stars 5 and 6, Zoe Jackson. We've got field producer for Drag Race and All Stars, Ashlei Dabney. And we've got myself, Michele Visage. So welcome in, everybody. We're so excited to be here. So excited to talk to you. So proud of what we do every day and so glad we can share it with you. But I would be remiss if we didn't start this conversation dedicating it to the memory of one of our special angels that we just lost the other day, and that's our gorgeous Chi DeVigne. And I think Mish probably worked the closest with her apart from me. You want to say a few words about our Chi?
Yeah, actually, Jacqueline, who also is recently departed producer on the show, and I worked very closely with Chi. And she was diagnosed with an illness a few years ago, and I had kind of stayed in touch with her. I was just on the phone with her a few weeks ago when she was in the hospital, and we're just so sad. She's one of the loveliest, sweetest, kindest, really, of all the many, many queens we've had. And just such a shining light, so talented, so young, and we all will remember her forever.
She absolutely was a juggernaut, and we're just going to dedicate, I think, you know, anything we can do to her, and of course to our Jacqueline, who will never be forgotten. So now we will talk about our fabulous show, and this is obviously not all about, you know, me here because I'm on the camera. This is about these incredible women that work behind the scenes day in and day out. So I'm going to direct them directly to you guys, and you can take it from there. So the first question I have, this can go to Mandy and Mish. Mandy, we'll go to you first. What does a day on the set of RuPaul's Drag Race look like?
Well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us. And hello to all my wonderful partners in crime here, our powerful women on the show. Thank you for joining me and Michele with this. This is a lot of fun. You know, there are no 2 days on RuPaul's Drag Race that are exactly the same. As you might imagine, there's a lot going on set on RuPaul's Drag Race. Typically, though, we do most of our episodes in 2 days. Day one of any given episode will be when the cast arrive. They kick off the episode with a little bit of morning workroom reality and just a little chat where they kind of catch up and give us a sense of what what's buzzing amongst them in the group, you know, and then we get the Ru mail that sort of gives a little teaser for the challenge to come. We'll do a mini challenge, which is typically a really fun way. They tend to be comedic episodes, comedic challenges where the queens get into some sort of a quick drag and are tasked with, you know, a fun performance element or a comedy challenge like reading, which is fundamental on RuPaul's Drag Race. It's you know, an insult comedy challenge. And then they get tasked with their maxi challenge, which can range from a fashion challenge to again, a comedy challenge, to a singing challenge, to a dance challenge, a music video, an acting challenge. Again, it really, you know, it runs the gamut around here, and we, you know, are looking each season to continue to give the audience and the viewers more and more to look forward to, and to challenge our fiercely talented and incredibly competitive queens to stretch their charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent in all kinds of different challenges. You know, Mish and Ashlei deal really closely with the queens on the day-to-day, and I'll let you speak a little bit, Mish, about that.
Yeah, so, you know, we kind of start before and we go until after all this challenge stuff happens. So we usually interview them in the mornings, talk about everything that's happened in the day or days before. And so we just kind of get in there and get really in depth into where their head is at this point, where they are going into the day. And then we're watching them. We're basically watching them. It's like a documentary feel. Like, we're watching them to see how they go through all these hoops, how they're feeling, how we think they're feeling, what are they saying, what are they not saying. And we're basically really trying to get to the nitty gritty and get deeper than like the generic story. And then at the end of the day, we check in with them to see where they are and where their head is ahead of going into the next interview. So it's really very documentary-ish, and trying to get that mix of sort of like entertainment mixed with the real human stories, mixed with the competition. And again, when you have long swaths of time where they're just getting ready for a challenge, we will kind of toss out topics that we think are going to give us that combination we're looking for.
So, right. And some challenges play out on the first day, and other challenges present on the main stage on the second day. As you know, in the example of like this season, I'm That Bitch, our premiere episode, where the queens recorded vocals for and lip synced and performed a dance number on the main stage on the second day of the episode for the judge panel. And then, of course, the runways, critiques, deliberation. We're very busy. We're very, very busy in 2 days on set.
Since we've just been announced that we've been commissioned for season 13, do you find pressure, Mandy, and how do you deal with it to bring new ideas to such a long-running format? Is there a lot of pressure for you to keep it fresh or keep things moving, and how do you deal with that?
Well, it's the best kind of pressure. It's a lot of fun, you know, when we convene at the top of you know, pre-production in each season, and we challenge ourselves to one up ourselves and to continue to keep the challenges and the circumstances fresh and exciting and new, and of course to give the queens opportunities to show all that they are capable of. They're such incredible performers, and you know, looking at a series-long order and trying to figure out how to flex their fashion muscles, how to flex their comedy muscles, their singer muscles, their acting muscles, and to really give the viewers variety and you know, showcase all that drag is, which is so much. And these competitors who season after season just blow me away with their incredible talent. So is it challenging? Yes, but I'm lucky to be able to do it.
We're lucky that we have you, because each season, me as a judge, I'm blown away with the stuff that you guys come up with. It's like unbelievable. It's like, oh, well, I can't believe half the stuff that you think of, and then we see it play out. It's just brilliant. So for those of you that work closely with the queens, which I think it would be Mish and Ashlei, what is your approach to helping them open up on camera? Because that, I would think, is the toughest part for some of these kids who've never been on camera.
Yeah, I think for me, there's two things that are the most important elements for that. One of them is that I am lucky enough to be somebody who, my circle of friends, my social circle has included drag for a decade before being on Drag Race. So when I come to these kids, I know their lingo, I'm not surprised by anything they say. I make them very comfortable that I'm part of you, we're all together in this, and you can be comfortable. Nothing you say is going to shock me. So that's kind of like a first big step of it. And the other thing is just really bonding with them, hearing their POV, hearing their stories, making them feel like conversational, that you're not on the hot seat, like let's chat and let's get to know you and let's put who you are out there. And I kind of encourage my team to kind of get on board also with sort of understanding their world and wanting to get to know them, and making them feel like they're not just some sort of like novelty subject, but that like, you know, we are really invested in telling their stories. And we really form actually like very long friendships and bonds that transcend even after a queen has left the show with most of them. And I feel like that is kind of one of the secrets of our success. And I think Ashlei also can add on to that.
Yeah, I definitely, that's my favorite part about the show actually, is creating the bond with the queens, just because I get to sit and interview with them in their confessionals and just really deep dive into their thoughts. I'm kind of like a therapist sometimes. Just let them get everything out, and it's so amazing to watch because I think as a producer, I take myself on that journey with them, and by allowing them to like cry with me, I'm crying because I'm devastated when they're devastated, or I'm happy when they're happy. And so when they understand that we can relate to this human experience, it helps them to open up and, you know, trust the process. You know, it's always, you know, they come in here and then they're like on TV fighting for their dreams. And so having them to trust the process and really open up to it, it lends itself to a journey that they go on that even they're surprised at by the end of the competition or whenever they're eliminated. So that's my favorite part, is bonding with them. And it's not easy because they come in here like, oh, I don't want to be portrayed this way or that way. And my thing with my girls and all the girls are just come in here, be yourself. And that's the best thing that you can do, because you're going to forget all of the lies that you made up in your head when you were watching the show on TV. So that seems to be a great approach when it comes to bonding with them and just kind of letting their stories breathe and feel heard.
Did you have any favorite moments, Ashlei, from season 12?
Girl, my favorite moment was sitting in this chair with Heidi in Closet. Everything that she says is gold, and you can't make it up. You just cannot make it up. And just, you know, just going through the motions with her and feeling her heart and getting excited at how the audience will also feel her heart and how transparent it's gonna come across. Like, that really, really excites me. Also, Jada Essence Hall, loving her. You know, I was sitting in the back watching the monitors as as the debate was going on. And her look over there moment was so iconic, because I was sitting here like, Jada, say something, do something. And she's like, look over there. And it was just a classic moment. So I just love sitting in my trailer and watching the show happens with my popcorn, honestly. But the confessionals are definitely my favorite part.
Yeah, Mish, you too?
Love, I mean, interviewing is one of my favorite things to do with the girls. I would say one of my favorite on-camera moments was the Madonna challenge, where every single girl just brought it so iconically, like in such an unforgettable, amazing way. And my other favorite off-camera moment are just kind of when you stop by when the girls are having lunch or dinner, and you're just kind of like having a nice, like, real moment with them. That's my other favorite moment.
I was partial to Night of 1,000 Michele Visages.
Right. I have to mention, though, the unprecedented finale and reunion episodes that these queens pulled together for us. I mean, I guess it's hard to rack my brain through a season I enjoyed so much, and I think there's so many high points and memories that we'll take with us, but to not mention those two episodes where the queens and the staff really rallied together in these really complicated and challenging times that we'd never ever been a part of before, and seeing the queens who in their mind had, as part of their journey, been looking forward to the grand finale and the reunion where we all get back together and kiki about what happened in the season, and with great pomp and circumstance crown a winner. Seeing them, I was just so inspired by their resilience and their resourcefulness and their ability to come together and deliver, I think, one of those memorable finales there will ever be, you know, and really show through those two episodes why they are so incredibly talented and so inspiring and so compelling as performers, as humans, as role models. And for me, I think that's what will stick with me about season 12.
I thought it was kind of an epic, you know, when we figured out what was happening, and I kept thinking, because I was over in London flying home, and I'm thinking, how's this finale going to work?
Right.
And when I had heard, I thought, oh, this is just genius, but also scary. And this is kind of the way a drag queen lives. It's like the way that they hustle and the way that they do things was the way that this played out. So for me, it made perfect sense, and it was done so brilliantly, so brilliantly. And yes, the queens came through, but the editors and the producers, oh my goodness, what an incredible show. And what is it like for you to work with Ru directly, Mandy? I mean, me, I'm working with my best friend. I've known him for 30 years. So for me, it's like, I've seen him grow from, you know, a queen that I knew from the nightclubs in New York City to having a song called Supermodel, to where he is now. He hasn't changed at all, really. He just has a nicer house. But he's still the same human being and still loves and cares and gives passionately all day, every day. But I'm in a different seat being, you know, I work with my friend. You, Mandy, are in a different seat than I am. So what's it like for you, who hasn't had 30 years with Ru?
Right. Well, I think we probably all have stories of moments working so closely with Ru, who's obviously on set every day and is an enormous part of everything that we do, from casting to creative, and is, you know, he's got his fingerprints and all over all that it is that we do. I personally have found, you know, he's so inspirational and such a role model and so creative and passionate and you know, so funny and smart. And you know, he truly is somebody that has taught me a lot about, you know, to work with somebody who at the core of his message is love, right? Love yourself so we can all love others. And who I think has through understanding and recognizing the power of drag, brought it into our lives as a message of love and hope and laughter and acceptance. I don't know. I've done a lot of shows and I've worked with a lot of people, and never have I been so inspired by the group that I work with. And it starts from the top, and for me that's RuPaul, and of course everybody here, and you know, of course the queens and everybody. I think it comes from there down, and I think it cuts through.
Yeah, no, you're right. Zoe, I want to talk to you for a minute here. I want to know some of the challenges of your job that people might not expect.
There's a couple. I love my job, so it's tough. I'm like, I mean, I'm in contact with these queens basically from the moment they find out they're gonna be on the show. They get a call being like, and you're through, and then it's me, and emails and phone calls and being like, do you have these dresses? Do you have these things? Who do you want to play for Snatch Game? You have to pick this outfit out. Send me your interview looks, like da-da-da-da-da. So I feel very much like a weird house mom. I call and I check in and I'm making sure that, did you pack this? Do you have that? Make sure you have your hot glue gun, like da-da-da-da-da, like all of these things. And then they get here and I have to constantly check in with myself just to make sure it's like, for these queens, this is it for them. This is like, they've been auditioning and auditioning and auditioning. Some of these queens have auditioned 10 times to be here. So they get here and they're so excited, so excited, so excited. So I'm mitigating a lot of expectations. I'm like, okay, yes, be pumped, but like, there's a lot of hurry up and wait. Like, our days are long. Like, make sure you've eaten something. Like, are you drinking water? So there's a lot of like checking in with them to make sure that the overwhelmingness of this doesn't get in the way of like their well-being, them. I want them to be the best that they can be whenever they're on screen and just in general. So like doing all of those little things, the little things you might forget when you get excited about something is kind of always in the back of my brain. That's one of them, at least.
Yeah, you have a lot going through your brain, you can see. And I think you are a mother in a sense that I've competed and being in the competition, all you're thinking of is endgaming. That's all you're thinking of. So you aren't thinking about your well-being, taking care of yourself, making sure it's something simple like staying hydrated. We're not thinking about those things. So thank God they have somebody like you, Zoe. So thank you. I want to talk to you, Mish, for a minute, because one thing that I love that we did was weaving in the storyline of voting. It was so important. I was so proud when I was sitting at that judge's table and at the end of every episode, having the vote.gov signs and doing our part. So was that something you thought about for a long time as you sat down and planned it? Because it was woven into each episode.
Yeah, I think on the level of like having the signs or having challenges that address that issue, that is sort of, you know, Mandy and, you know, the rest of the team kind of like weaving that into that aspect of it. We actually always try to get this kind of political thing, and especially in an election year, when it comes to the stories that the queens then tell, to really give it more oomph than just seeing, like, you know, the voting signs and all that, which is great. Talk about it. Talk about your experiences. How do you deal with your families? How do you deal with, you know, how does the vote affect your life as a person of color, as a queer person? And that combination, I think, really sends the message in a deeper way.
And it was super important, and again, super proud. So San, I want to go to you. RuPaul's Drag Race has expanded its franchise. Now I'm going to read because we have so many. We've got, obviously, the main show. We've got All Stars. We've got Untucked. We've had the Secret Celebrity Drag Race. So fun. The Vegas review and more. Hopefully more still coming, because the more we have is the more the world gets to see the talent of these absolutely incredibly talented kids. So how do you all work hand in hand on all these various kind of entities that are all in the same sphere?
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that there are so many spinoffs of Drag Race speaks to the fact that the queens touch so many people, and their message touches people, and that's why we have so many different versions of the show. I think the caliber of the talent of the queens is constantly evolving. And so because that's evolving, we're creating platforms that, you know, that can service what they can provide. You know, with Vegas Review, it's a live performance. These queens are so talented that we have to have a show that showcases their live performance. We've got, you know, Secret Celebrity Drag Race. They're mentors to celebrities who want to, you know, experience and go through this for the very first time. And I think that that speaks to what people are craving, and it's always something new, and they're always bringing something new to the table. And the way that we work together, I mean, we're using a lot of the same talent, and I think talent relation is super important. And I think that starts with, you know, Zoe calling them, and Ashlei and Mish working with them in story. It's about creating an atmosphere across all the shows and all the different, you know, from, you know, DragCon to all these other shows, that they have an environment that they trust, and they have a place to showcase their art and their talent, and trust that we're going to get it out there in a way that they are proud of, and the way that the audience can accept. And I think it speaks to the fact that people want to be inclusive, and the more that these different, you know, variations of the show exist, the more that it speaks to that. And that's a blessing. And that's what is so great about this franchise at large, is that, you know, we're able to weave through these different versions of the show and still create and pass off the same message, which is love and inclusion and working together. I mean, you know, Misha and I talk, Ashlei and I talk, we're constantly talking about story, and we're constantly talking about, you know, what these queens are going through and what their journey is, so that we're making sure we're telling the right story and the right journey that they're going on, whether it's in Untucked, whether it's in, you know, their first time in the franchise in the main show, and then moving on to All Stars, and then being a mentor and celebrity. Like, there's a journey even through the different variations of the shows that we have. So, you know, I think it's the way that we are able to weave in and out of these different things is a testament to the teamwork and to working with such wonderful people and power and ladies, and, you know, and I think we care. And I think that's the bottom line, is we care. And every time a queen moves on to the next show, that care follows through and stays with them.
And I think the thing about drag in general, as an art form, and Michele, you can attest to this, and Mish, and those of you who've been part of the drag community for decades, it's, you know, I know that RuPaul and Randy Barbado and Fenton Bailey with World of Wonder, that they 30 years ago, you know, began pushing the drag rock sort of up the hill, if you will, and beginning to spread that message that, like, this is something we need to pay attention to. This is something big. This is something amazing, and this is something that you know, that makes people feel good, and especially in times like these, you know, on our little show where with these people, these, you know, with the queens from all walks of life, from all over the country, with different stories and different journeys that have brought them here. You know, we learn from them. We feel good. Little miracles happen on all these little shows you mentioned. You know, little miracles happen along the way, and it's especially in times like these. I think that's why it's so popular right now. The message is wholesome. It's laughter. It's love. It's be kind, be respectful. You know, and spread the word.
You know, let's talk about Untucked for a minute, because we often say you're not getting the whole story if you're not watching Untucked. And that's absolutely 100% true. And, you know, in the beginning, it was kind of just little blips here and there. It wasn't, you know, and it was online. It's, you know, you had to search for it, still is, but now it's on TV after the show, and it's grown. I guess I can say to you, Mandy, what are some of the best moments of Untucked? And you really don't see a show like this anywhere on TV. You really don't. Because people say, oh, it's a reality show, but it's so much more than just a reality, because it really is in the time,
right?
In real time.
Right. The competition is somewhat of a pressure cooker, right? I mean, where Untucked falls in our production schedule is literally as, you know, most of Untucked takes place as deliberations are happening on the main stage, where queens have just been critiqued, where we've identified who is among the top and who's potentially vulnerable in you know, for elimination. So feelings are strong in this moment, and it's a moment where there is no judgment from they're not being critiqued, they're not being analyzed, they're free to be themselves. And we've been so fortunate in recent seasons to be able to take an opportunity to spend more time with some of our fantastic celebrity guest judges who enjoy going back and joining the queens in Untucked to offer up some real honest, heartfelt advice, or you know, to do a deeper dive into some of what was covered during the critiques. And it's an opportunity for the queens to be alone together with each other and their feelings, and to get a little bit of you know, really specialized advice from some of our celebrity guest judges, which is cool. Dan obviously works on Untucked.
Yeah, I would say what makes Untucked really special is that it's all about emotion, and it's all about connecting. And it is real time. Like, the queens just got plummeted, or they are on a high because they got these amazing critiques, and they come back there and they are in their feelings. And it was just a moment of like, oh my God, we have to be shooting this. Like, you know, Michele, you and the other judges go to deliberate, and the queens are in their feelings and they're feeling it. And I think it's a test. The fact that people watch this show and we watch Untucked already knowing who is going home that day, they watch it because they don't want to miss a second of like how someone felt after, you know, these are their dreams. And it's like, it's either, oh my God, they're doing great, or oh my God, they're at the bottom. But people watch because the fans love the queens. Untucked is also a place where you get to learn so much more about them, because the environment of Untucked is, you know, they've just finished that week's challenge, and they really are just like, you know, everything is released. And sometimes that's really fun and funny, and sometimes it's super dramatic because, again, emotions. And that's what we really focus on in Untucked, is making sure we're being true to and authentic to how everybody's feeling. And you know, the best that we can do as producers in that time is to create a space where they feel empowered to say the things they need to say to each other, because a lot of times it's to each other, what they need to say, you know, if they have a message that they want to say to people watching. Because I think a lot of fans watch because they're going through something, and they're going through something that the queens are going through. And it's just nice to connect. Again, emotions and connection is like what makes Untucked really special.
Great, I love that. So we have some questions, so let's get to them. So question number one for anyone, so you can raise your hand or talk or whatever. As an aspiring producer myself, I'm curious what types of internships and jobs you took to get your start as a producer for a reality competition series. Who wants to speak on that?
I'll go.
Go ahead, Mish.
I'll go. I actually was trying to get into reality TV way back in the day. And I had a friend who hooked me up with, there was no internship or anything, but I got a job as a logger on season 3 of America's Next Top Model. And the very next season, I became a story producer, and that's how I got my start.
So you started out as a logger.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. Anybody else want to share?
I actually started out as an actor. I was a musical theater major, and I hated it when I was in New York auditioning. I was like, what is this? And so someone hit me up on Twitter to come be an assistant, and so I was like, okay, I gotta fake a resume. And so I faked my way right into a network job at BET, where I was like, oh shit, okay, I'm gonna just take this opportunity and keep going. And so I just kind of made connections, and then I finally moved to LA and was able to kind of just work my way in. And it was kind of a miracle story, so I'm very proud of my little producer history.
I would say I started doing internships in college. I was like, how do I get in? Who do I know? Who needs free help? How can I get college credit for this? And then it was just really keeping contact with people and making sure that people knew when I was available, when I was graduating, and then, I got a job as a PA, like we all start out, and just worked my way from show to show. And I will say I started out doing, everything from like home design makeover to like reality docuseries, and I really wanted to get into competition. And like, and I don't know if people watching, but obviously, my fellow female producers on this panel know that when you get pigeonholed into a category, you are there. You're like the follow reality producer. And I was like, no, I want to do competition. I want to, and it was just, you have to create that opportunity for yourself, and you have to say, hey, I'm willing to do anything. What do you have? And then when I'm in, I will prove to you what I can do. And that is, I think and that's for anybody. If somebody gives you an opportunity, if there's something standing in your way, figure out how to get it out of your way so that you can say yes. Always say yes.
Get in the door. That's all you need, and then you'll be able to prove yourself. Question number 2, this is for Zoe. How do you make sure to incorporate all aspects of the show into such a short amount of time while simultaneously keeping a running plot?
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a big question. I mean, honestly, we are kind of blessed with these queens. There is so much going on. It's more of like what are we going to choose not to include question, as opposed to the other way around. Like, they are full of stories. There's always things happening between people. They are constantly talking to one another. Like, when there's so many different things going on, it's more about how to trim that down than how to like incorporate all the stories together. I feel like Mish and Mandy, you guys go into post more so than I do. I feel like you guys would probably speak to that a little bit better as well.
Yeah, I mean, like, I definitely start at the pre-production phase, and that all of pre-production for me is basically getting to know them and their stories and the things that I think are going to be important to tell about them. Sometimes they're aware of what's important, and a lot of times they're not. And then kind of seeing it through, again, with this connecting and just really seeing who they are and how they act in this crazy environment. And then we have months and months and months of post, which is really delving into getting to know them and getting the right magical combination of entertainment and competition and human stories, and packaging it up so people will want to see all of it.
What's exciting about reality TV? I started with a little bit of scripted, as many people did. But what's exciting about reality TV is you never know. Like, sure, we go into a season knowing and having a grid for what all of our challenges are going to be. Of course, if we stick to the grid, we're lucky. Of course, there's last minute changes all the time. But you kind of know what's going to happen in terms of the challenges that you're presenting. But the story, I mean, that's just like the way that evolves and unfolds. There's no knowing going into it, and that's what's different than scripted. The story hasn't been told yet, and it tells itself in the field. And sometimes you go back to post, and myself, who I haven't done interviews in a long time, you don't even necessarily always know. You folks do because you're more in it, but you don't. Sometimes a star is made in the interview chair. You know what I mean? And oftentimes you realize on the stage what they're doing, but it's striking that balance, Mish, to your point, of like, it's we really try to create rounded characters on this show, and I think we're pretty good at it, because they're performers, but they're humans with very, very varied and diverse human stories to tell as well. I think that's an important part of the show.
So this could be for me, Ashlei, San, we're Untucked. How do you choose which storylines to follow, and how do you get the queens to share their lives and their details, you know, about their lives?
I'm going in on this one. So, So first of all, we cast a very wide net when we're filming, because we don't know how the story's going to end for them in the competition. And that's sort of a big part of telling their story. So we cast a very wide net, getting to know them based on what we know from the past, things that we think are going to be important. And then when we get in post is when we now have to work backwards and say, okay, here's how everyone ended up. How do we start? Which things are going to tell that story the best out of the things that happened? So that's sort of how that's the system for that. And then we basically really a big part of what we do, like we talked about earlier, is bonding with them and getting them comfortable. And I'm actually interested in their stories. I'm interested to know, everyone on my team is interested in knowing. So you really get that rapport when we go into the interview room, or even when we're just talking to them about what's going to happen today. They know that we care, we know, we remember all the little details, and they're aware of that. So I feel like all of that together makes for the cornucopia of all the little elements that we can then go back and scrutinize and see which ones are going to be important.
Right. I mean, I think for Untucked, you know, a lot of times we're in communication with what's happening in the competition, and how do we, you know, heighten anything or delve deeper into things that happened in the competition in Untucked. And there are times that things that happen in Untucked dictate what, you know, dictates the next episode. And all the fallout of that, you know, Untucked becomes story, and vice versa. Stuff from the main show becomes story in Untucked. And so it's really communication and working together to tell those stories that really pop out and stand out.
I mean, from someone who's competed in a reality competition show, it's scary. And you have to really trust your story producers. And I think there's a lot of love and a lot of trust to be able to do that. So I give you guys credit for that, because that's not an easy thing to do, because it's all kind of like, you know, Ashlei and Misha, I mean, you know, these kids are trusting you with like their innermost thoughts, and they're putting it out there on the screen. So that just goes to show that these stories that, you know, not just in confessionals or in Untucked, but even in the workroom and things that we see that are so important topics that are, you know, kind of put out there. It's trust. So kudos go out to you ladies for doing what you do. So we've got one more question before we wrap. As the show continues on, I get this question. I literally get this question daily. I have my points of view on it. But let's hear what you guys say as EPs, because I'm not an EP. As the show continues on, are you considering themed seasons like other reality shows do, like UK versus US, or redemption season for like the first one that went home, those type of things? Do you go there yet? Or me personally, I don't think we need that yet. You know, maybe one day, but I feel like that's even season 20 down the road. Do you know what I mean? But does that ever come up in conversation with you all? That's a no.
No, it's an interesting question because we pre-production, there's is an exploration, you know. I mean, we're lucky that there's so many young, talented artists across the country and the world right now who have so much to bring. Without that sort of organizing principle, of course, we have All Stars where people are, you know, return with a different set of different agenda, if you will, with a different approach to it. You know, I think RuPaul's Drag Race, you know, I'm sorry, what was the question? No.
We're just asking if they'll ever be themed, but I think you covered it by saying, and that's always my answer, it's like we have All Stars. All Stars doesn't need to be gimmicky. Like All Stars is what it is. It's these girls battling it out for a second, sometimes third chance to get in the All-Stars Hall of Fame. So I don't think personally, I don't think we have to go to, you know, the big girl season or the first sent home or the all winners, or, you know, I don't hate the idea. I just think it's gimmicky, and I don't think we need to go there yet. That doesn't mean gimmicky is bad. It means I don't think it's necessary yet, because All-Star speaks for itself, right?
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. I think that's a good way to wrap it up. And on that note, ladies, thank you so much for joining in this conversation. Thank you to everybody that has stuck with us for, you know, 12 seasons plus. We appreciate you loving our show and loving what we do. And we are so honored to be some of the strong, powerful women behind RuPaul's Drag Race. And these women are all incredible individually and together as a group. So thank you all for joining us. And thank you out there to the PGA. Thank you for loving us and honoring us. So I hope everybody has a great day. And thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.